Hello, my friends, and welcome to my June reading wrap-up. June was the month that I realized, at least in the summer, right now, in this season, whatever it is, I need to be leaning into audiobooks. So I got a decent amount read, but most of them were on audio or like a combination of audio and physical. And I only had a couple, well, three and a half DNFs, which I'll get into. I think I'll share those at the end. I've got my reading wrap up. I'm going to be going off of my June reading journal page, which I have a little sticky note here because I forgot to wrap up a book in May. So I'm going to start with that one so I don't forget about it. And then we'll go into all the books that I read and DNF'd in June. First of all, May, I read the book Birdie. It's a middle grade book about these kids. I think they're like 10 and 6, maybe about that. Their mom dies and they go to live with older relatives that they've never met before. And they obviously didn't have a great, their mom was very, I don't know the right word. I don't remember if she struggled with addiction, but she wasn't there a lot. So they kind of have a hard time trusting. There's a lot of trauma and healing that occurs their time with this great aunt and uncle, I think it is. The couple that took them in is just the sweetest. They live on an acreage with a forest by them, or they're kind of amongst the trees and a stream, and the nature is just a great place for the kids to learn to play, learn to heal. And it reminded me a lot of the book Forever or a Long, Long Time, which is a pretty good foster care book. But I think I enjoyed this one quite a bit more. So if you like middle grade, you like books about foster care, I would highly recommend it. Okay, then I think we'll just go in the order that I have in my reading journal. Otherwise, I will probably lose my spot because I don't have physical copies of all of them. Actually, I started the month off. My first and last books were in the same series. So I'm going to kind of talk about both of those. They were book 2 and 3 in the Fog Harbor series. Okay guys, I just realized I read all 3 books in the Fog Harbor series this month. So when I'm talking about these books, I'm getting them so confused. The Roads We Follow is actually book number 2. So when I talk about that one, that's that one. And then The Voice We Find is book 3, like I thought. But also there's The Words We Lost. And this has to do with a character who, when her friend dies, she kind of loses her ability to read. And she's a book editor, acquisitions editor kind of thing. So she needs to be able to read to see if this book is worth, bringing into their publishing house. I really enjoyed this one. So this is book 1. When I'm talking about it coming up here, I can't believe I got these all mixed up. This makes sense. The Words We Lost, because she loses her ability to read. Apparently I'm losing my ability to talk. Really enjoyed this one. We also flash back to when she was a teenager and coming into this new town and making some friends and all of that. Yikes, I can't believe I read all 3 of these books. Okay, so it's gonna be a little bit confusing when I talk about books 2 and 3 because I kept calling book 2 the title of book 1. So sorry about that. The first book is The Words We Lost. In this, we follow 3 sisters whose mother is a country music star, and she's taking them on this road trip in this redone camper bus. And then as well, their bus driver is the son of an old family friend. I honestly don't remember that much from the book. It was okay. It was my least favorite out of the 3. But then I read The Voice We Find, and I really enjoyed this one. We follow a woman who was on Broadway and kind of froze on stage. So she's going back home where her family owns a winery. I don't even know if that's the right terminology. Her brother is he thinks very highly of himself. He definitely has issues, but can put on a good front. Her parents seem kind of terrible. So she's going back there. She's living in the pool house, working part-time at whatever the place is called, their wine business. And then she also gets into recording audiobooks So then our other main character owns a music studio and is helping her record the audiobooks, which is really cool, except I was listening to it on audio and the one character was like, do audiobooks even count as reading? And then I'm like, hearing this while listening to an audiobook was kind of funny. Yeah, I really enjoyed that one. What really was cool is not very often, like every few chapters or so, there's a little diary entry from the main male character's sister. So she was in a train accident in India with their parents when I think like 3 years before the book starts, and she lost most of her hearing and the parents died. And so it's a little bit of her processing that, and I thought it was very well done. It was very interesting. Yeah, I enjoyed that one. I enjoyed the first book and the last book the most, the second book the least. There is only one character throughout the 3 books that like ties it together. And he is kind of like important in each of the books, but his story isn't, you don't have to read the books in any kind of order, is what I'm trying to say, because it doesn't really matter. Then I read Just Friends by Haley Pham. We really enjoy watching Ryan and Haley's summer series that they've done the last 2 summers. So a romance book is not normally my norm, but I put a hold on it from the library and it came in. And I mean, it's not my norm, so I'm gonna judge it differently. It was good for what it was. My favorite part is that the main character inherits this little cottage, and I just love how it was described, and I wanted to live in this cottage so bad. In this one, our main character, she is coming home because her relative, like her aunt, great aunt or something, is dying, and she helped her and her mom out. And so obviously a big part of her life. So she wants to come back and be there for her when she passes. And she gets a job at a coffee shop where, of course, her ex works. And I mean, it's very predictable. I think that's my biggest thing with romance books is like, you always know the people are going to end up together. And I don't like to know how books end. But yeah, like the descriptions of the cottage that she had, I just wanted to live right in there. It sounded really good. Okay, the next one I finished was Memorizing Scripture by Glenna Marshall. So this is a nonfiction, The Basics, Blessings, and Benefits of Meditating on God's Word. It's quite a short book. It's under 150 pages with some reasons why we should study Scripture, some practical tips and tools, and yeah, I thought it was really good. If you get my weekly newsletter, my 7 on Sunday, I shared a Bible memory app that I'm using that was kind of inspired by this, and the ladies in the book club that I'm a part of. So definitely if you want to memorize Scripture and you've struggled with that, I would say give this a read, and then also download the Bible memory app, because that one's been really working very well for me. Although I'm definitely struggling with like the last 2 verses in the chapter that I'm working on right now, but I'll get them. Then where did I go from there? Oh, I reread the 2nd volume in the Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon. My plan was to read 1 in May, 1 in June, 1 in July, and then I have read all the physical books I have, and then I will just wait to reread the rest once they come out, I think, because they're republishing them with different covers. And in Canada, I can't get these old covers without paying like at least $50, and it's not really worth it. So we're in 1883. We're following Emma M. Lyon. I feel like I've talked about her a ton. Tons of people have talked about her a ton. Not really worth rehashing. Quite a few things I underlined, parts I laughed at. I love the humor. And yeah, just really enjoy this series. Then I read Beneath the Swirling Sky. Oh yeah, I'm not even going to try to pronounce the author's name. This is a middle grade book where certain people in the book, and our main characters, can go inside different paintings. So in this one, we focus a lot on Van Gogh and his paintings. I think it's a really good book for learning about art and getting kids interested in art. There is at least 3 books out in the series, and I think that my plan is to get my 13-year-old to start it this year. to maybe like check off some of those like art history boxes or just art in general. So yeah, it was fun. One of my favorites from the month was a nonfiction that I have the e-arc for, and I ended up listening to it. It's On Magic and Miracles by Miriam M. Jacobs, I think. And this is all about fantasy, being a Christian and reading fantasy literature. And I feel like she did such a good job being as unbiased as possible. She put a lot of research into it. I didn't expect that she had read or watched like hundreds of testimonies from people. And it was very interesting that like some of the most common factors, if people are going to get into like the occult, trauma, past trauma, childhood trauma is pretty much the biggest factor. And I think it was like less than 10% of people are interested, get into the occult because of fantasy books. And the ones that do also have that like childhood trauma, like they also check that childhood trauma box. So you can't necessarily just say it was fantasy. But then she also talks about like what is good magic and bad magic in fantasy. And it was very, very well done. I didn't expect it to be as long as it was or as well researched. I thought it was very interesting. Oh, then I read When the Silence Breaks. This is coming out in August, I believe. I just shared some of my Q3 releases I'm looking forward to. This one I've already read. This is going to be a series. I don't know how long the series is going to be. I'm just gonna give you a warning. I've got a bunch of kids outside, a bunch of teenage boys yelling. So if there's background noise coming through, it's summer. This is what happens. So When the Silence Breaks, it's set in winter, which was really weird to be reading in June. So if you like cold books in the summer, I'd recommend it. If you like cold books in the winter, write it down for that. Our main character is looking into something, looking for an old airplane that crashed. She's looking on the mountains in a bunch of trees. She thinks her brother was murdered because of some kind of secret from this. And so she hires someone to take her there. And bad things happen, and it's cold. And yeah, that's all I'm going to tell you for that. Sometimes with a series you can see like, okay, this is where we're going to be going next. I don't remember if I know where we're going next, but yeah, I enjoyed it. Then I read a Christina Suzanne Nelson. I read Echoes from a Missing Generation. I'm so excited I finally read this one. I was just really excited about this one for some reason, even though I didn't really even know, because I tend to not really read, like the synopsis. Didn't really know what was going to happen. This is at least tied for my favorite by her. It might be my absolute favorite. I haven't decided. So we're set in 1970. This man disappears. He is married. He's been accused of murdering this lady in their town. I think it's like a small town. And when he's on the way to the draft office for the Vietnam War, he disappears. No one ever hears from him again. So like the book kind of follows leading up to that, him being accused of murdering this young woman. And then we're also 50 years later, we're following this man's granddaughter. I think I have that right. Yes. So she is going back to try to figure out like what happened to her grandfather. Her mother never stayed with this character's, her name is Kenzie. Her father was never in the picture, and she never had a grandfather, so like she has a hard time trusting men, and she just wants to know like what happened. And Christina Suzanne Nelson does such a good job of like breaking different genres. Like she just mixes them all up together. This definitely had some like thriller suspense elements to it, but then also just like small town, historical plus contemporary vibes. Like it has a little bit of everything, and I really enjoyed it. I had to think about this one for a while after I finished it, and that's a positive thing. Oh yes, and then I have been trying to continue the Timeless series / start the Timeless series. So I DNFed the first book because there is like infidelity. It's really weird. It's a time-crossing book where you have a character that lives in two different time periods, usually. Book 2 is a little bit different because we have a character who actually goes into 3 timelines. She's in 1861, 1941, and 2001. And then what happens in these books is when they turn 21, they stay awake past midnight in the timeline they want to stay in. So every day they wake up in a new timeline and they just like rotate through their timelines. It's a really interesting idea. It's a really interesting way to learn history. So in this one, we've got in 1861, she's the daughter of a senator at the outbreak of the Civil War. So that's interesting. In 1941, she's a Navy nurse, and there's lots of historical things that happen there. And then 2001, she's a medical student dreaming of becoming a surgeon. So in each one, she is using her medical knowledge that she has in 2001. The cool thing about her is she's like 20 as the book starts, but she's had 60 years worth of reading and research because, you know, no time passes in the one timeline other than nighttime, and she can be learning and doing things in the other one. Yeah, I really enjoyed our character here. I didn't really know which timeline she was going to choose. There were some surprises, which I enjoyed. So yeah, I did not read all of book 1, didn't enjoy it. Enjoyed book 2. And then I think I'm currently listening to book 3. The titles are also very confusing. I think I'm currently listening to book 3. Yes, because book 4 is one I have an e-arc for that I got forever ago, that I'm trying to get to that point. So if you don't enjoy the first book of the series, it might be worth continuing because you don't really need to know what happened in book 1 to keep going. One of my books I got for my birthday was Considering Sparrows, What Birds Teach Us About Who We Are, Where We're Going, and the Joy of Following Jesus. I got this from my husband for my birthday, and it's so good. Each chapter, we learn about a different bird or thing about birds, like a characteristic or something, and then he relates it to our walk with God or some kind of theology element, and I really enjoyed it. Loved it. I tried so hard to read it slowly. Would definitely recommend it if you like birds. It would make a really great gift if you know anyone that likes birds. I would love to see more books like this in the future. Okay, then I read our indie book club book for the month. So enjoyed it. This is Flame Theory by C.F.E. Black, book 1 in the Bloodlines series. It's kind of like Harry Potter, but university level, where you race dragons. So our main character is, I don't know, she's like from the, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a word, it starts with an S. My brain is just not functioning. You know, I just keep waiting for it to come to me. The place where poor people live. This is like charades. Anyway, slums. That's the word I'm looking for. She is like from the poor area of the city. And for some reason, this guy, in this world, the rich people, the people that are kind of like, they're called the Godborn, they can bond with dragons. But somehow our main character bonds with a dragon. And she gets approached by this, this is, the bonding with the dragon is on the sly. She gets approached by this guy who wants her to infiltrate this dragon racing school and expose some cheating that's been going on. This one family always wins all the races. There's something more going on, so he wants her to kind of be a spy while she's there. And yeah, I don't know, I was just totally sucked in. I really enjoyed the world. I enjoyed getting to know the dragon and like their bonding. I'm very excited to continue this. I managed to finish Freckles by Jean Stratton Porter. I have a bind up of Freckles and A Girl of the Limberlost. This is a classic that I just really wanted to check off. It was okay. I liked the beginning and then it just got boring. I don't really have anything against it necessarily. It was just a little bit too, wrapped up too neatly in some ways. Yeah, I'll just say that. I don't need to talk about it too much. Oh, and then I read another nonfiction, How to Tell the Truth by Preston Perry. I really enjoyed this. I listened to the audio and I just kept having like black guy voice in my head, cool man, cool, which was fun. And the only thing is, Preston Perry is very much like an evangelist, like naturally. He's really good at just talking to people. He's very extroverted, which is not my personality, but he talks about how to witness to people and how to form relationships and, you know, bring up conversations about God. And it's definitely something that I want to work on. Definitely not something that comes super naturally to me. So it was a really good read for me. Then I read Ambush by Colleen Coble. I ended up reading this for the trees prompt for the summer reading challenge. This takes place at a wildlife sanctuary. Book 3 is coming out right away this week, I think, possibly today. And yeah, so there is a bunch of things happening at this wildlife sanctuary. First of all, a trailer arrives with a horse that's going to be living there, and there's a dead body in there. And then gates keep being unlocked, and there's like, you know, tigers and hyenas and all sorts of dangerous creatures. And then there's also like an overarching mystery, which I'm assuming will be through the entire series, where our main character, her parents were murdered when she was... No, yeah, both her parents were murdered when she was like 10-ish. I can't remember the exact age. And she kind of remembers something, but it's like blocked by all the trauma. So we solve kind of like the one mystery in the book, but then we've got this overarching mystery, and I feel the need to know what happens. So I'm going to be continuing this series for sure. Apparently I didn't write this one on my list. I also read This Is Our Story. This is a YA thriller. I think it's like 5 friends are hunting and one of them gets shot, and they all decide to say they don't know who did it. And throughout the book, we're trying to figure out who did it. We have a perspective of one of the boys, we don't know which one, kind of scattered throughout. But for the most part, we are with this girl who was texting one of them, kind of like friends, maybe going to be a dating relationship, but wasn't quite there yet. And she is also a photographer and like works for their school newspaper. Yeah, so she wants to dig into it. Plus she works at one of the law offices in town. So it was very interesting. I definitely needed to know what was going to happen. Definitely like trigger warnings for a bunch of things. It is a thriller. I wouldn't say it's super clean. I would say it's fairly typical for YA thrillers, but a good one as far as the storyline goes. I also read You and Me Forever by Francis and Lisa Chan. I don't know how many times I've read this book. The subtitle is Marriage in Light of Eternity. We were going through this with a couple that we're doing premarital counseling with, and I have read this numerous times. I have highlighted, I don't know if you can see, so many different things throughout the years that I've read it. Would definitely recommend it. It is marriage in light of eternity, but it's also just like living life in light of eternity. Definitely would recommend it if you've never read it. Then I have a couple DNFs. Yes. This is like my bridge, because I read half of Tress of the Emerald Sea, which was a reread for me. And I got halfway through and I was like, okay, I think I'm done with it. Like, I know how it ends and I don't feel the need to continue reading it. So I kind of DNF'd it, but I also have read it before. So I don't know how that counts. I feel like sometimes I just need like a piece of a reread. So there's that. I started listening to Susie, The Life and Legacy of Susanna Spurgeon, wife of Charles H. Spurgeon. And I was just bored. Like, I could be forced to finish this book if I needed to be, but I also felt like I could be spending my time reading books I was actually interested in. So yeah, bored. I read about half of All Booked Up by Melody Carlson. This is like a 60-ish-year-old woman whose husband died about a year ago. She's opening up her home to have some other single women rent it out. There's like potentially this love triangle happening. I was excited because like the bookish vibes, and they're kind of starting a book club where I quit it. It wasn't doing what I wanted it to. And it wasn't yeah, I wasn't that interested. So I quit that. I also quit even after this. First of all, this is like one of the most gorgeous covers, but once again, I was just bored. So yeah, I quit this right at the beginning of the month. I don't even remember anything. I got about halfway, I think. Oh yeah, my bookmark's still in there. Got about halfway. Just wasn't interested. And that's it for my June reading wrap up. I would love to hear what you read in June, any great books you would recommend. Definitely let me know, and let's chat about books in the comments.